Vijñāna-bhairava-tantra, verse 48, yukti number 22 in my numbering. Let's explore it together. Dehāntare tvagvibhāgaṃ bhittibhūtaṃ vicintayet na kiñcid antare tasya dhyāyan adhyeyabhāg bhavet. One may imagine that the dividing wall of skin is merely a screen within which there is nothing. Meditating in this way, one directly senses that which can never be an object of meditation. Let's break it down word by word to understand what's going on here. So, dehāntare, within the body. Tvagvibhāgaṃ, the skin division, literally. Bhittibhūtaṃ, which has the form or nature of a screen. Vicintayet, one may imagine it in this way. Na kiñcid antare, nothing inside. Tasya, for such a person who is dhyāyan, meditating in this way, he or she, bhavet, becomes adhyeyabhāg, one who participates in and directly senses adhyeya, that which can never be an object of meditation. Okay, so what is this saying? It's saying that in this practice, you imagine, specifically the word imagine is used, vicintayet, that the skin is like a screen or a dividing wall, and inside of the skin is nothing whatsoever. Now, this is interesting because so far we've had verses that are using the metaphor of or inviting direct awareness of space or sky or emptiness. So we've seen the word viyat, space or sky, akasha. We've seen shunyata, which means emptiness, but shunyata is often in the tradition sort of reified, meaning to say it's not just emptiness, it's empty, open spaciousness that's often experienced as full of quiet presence or divine consciousness or what have you. And here, none of those terms are used. Here we don't have any technical term at all. We simply have the phrase, na kiñcid antare, there's nothing inside, just nothing. No thing. Within this body, dehāntare. So you imagine in this meditation that everything inside your skin is just nothing. There is nothing inside your skin. And then if by meditating in this way, we're told, you become adhyeyabhāg, one who directly senses and participates in that which can never be an object of meditation. So what that means is that usually in meditation, you focus on something, whether it's the breath, whether it's the central channel, whether it's any of these many possible kind of objects of focus that we've learned about. And even if they're intangible objects, objectless objects, still it's something to focus on. The three spaces in the body, you're focusing on these three spaces, aren't you? And here we're presented with a meditation that can, for someone for whom this meditation works, lead you to the experience of being that which can never become an object of focus, and that is essence nature. You cannot make your own essence nature an object of focus. You cannot make it something that you meditate upon, you see, because then it would be something separate from the power of awareness by which the meditation occurs. So if you are meditating on your essence nature, then it's actually not your essence nature. It might be an aspect of mind that is very, 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 very close to essence nature, but it's not essence nature if you're meditating on it, if you're focusing on it, because then you've still got you, the focuser, and that which is focused on. So here we're given a practice, and there'll be more of these later on, that hopefully allows us to simply drop into being that which we are, being the essence. Okay, you can never stop being your own essence nature. I mean, that's the funny part, right? Because we use language in these interesting ways that are not literally true, and actually nothing said in language in the dimension of spirituality, at least, can be literally true, right? So we talk about being that which you already are, even though you can never stop being it. It's awareness coming to rest within itself. Its essence nature identifying with nothing other than itself. So it is simply being, the state or condition of simply being. Okay, so that's what we're orienting towards the possibility of in this meditation. And it's a very important contemplation, actually, to let your meditation practice progress beyond focusing on something to simply being that which could never be an object of focus, right? Where there's no separation, where there's no you and that which you're meditating on. That's dissolved. So let's give it a try. And with all these kinds of meditations, with all these meditations in the spaciousness, emptiness section of the text, you can easily overthink them, and I invite you not to do that. Any amount of thinking about them actually is overthinking them. So it's simply a matter of relaxing into the possibility of experiencing what the text is pointing towards. You can't make it happen. In other techniques in this text and in tantric yoga in general, there is effort involved. You actually effort to a specific result, but it's very important that there are these kind of shambhava upaya practices where no effort is involved, and if there is effort, then it's not the practice that's being invited here. So no effort involved, no thinking about it, just relaxing into the possibility of experiencing that which the scripture is pointing to. Okay. Okay. So I'll sing it once again because that can help us release our thoughts about the practice and just drop into the practice itself. So even while I'm singing the Sanskrit, please start doing the practice whereby you're sitting very still physically. That's necessary for this practice. So sit very still, and you'll orient towards the possibility of feeling that your skin contains nothing. And the inside of your skin is nothing whatsoever. Dehāntare tvagvibhāgaṃ bhittibhūtaṃ vicintayet na kiñcid antare tasya dhyāyan adhyeyabhāg bhavet. Om. With a little practice, sitting still and feeling nothingness inside the skin, you'll then find that you're able to move and still feel the nothingness, the beautiful no-thingness. I shouldn't give it any quality. The text doesn't give us any qualities at all here. But that's how I experience it, a beautiful no-thingness. It's quiet. And it's a wonderful experience to be able to move and do whatever and still experience that nothingness inside the skin. Of course, the text again doesn't say nothingness. That's even too much of a concept. Just not anything whatsoever. It says there's not anything whatsoever inside in this practice. But remember, the verb used was imagine. So there's no claim being made here. It's not saying there in truth is nothing, but rather that there's benefit to doing the practice of imagining nothing inside the skin. And what is that benefit? That you, with practice, get to simply be. You become and participate fully in that which could never be an object of meditation, i.e., your own essence nature as being itself. Any questions or comments? Unsurprisingly, these emptiness, spaciousness practices incite less questions than the other practices I've noticed. But I should mention we're coming to the end very soon now, coming to the end of this emptiness, spaciousness section of the text. And then there'll be a few traditional tantric yoga practices like deha and bhuta shuddhi and so on. And then we come to the bliss practices. And it's really important that you do your homework, as it were, and work all these practices that come before the bliss practices. Otherwise, the bliss practices don't really work in a spiritual sense. Everyone gets excited, about doing sensual practice and bliss practice and sexual practice. And that's all here in the Vijñāna-bhairava-tantra. But if you don't have the preparatory work, then they're not meditations. Then you're just enjoying music or food or sex and it's not actually contributing towards your awakening. So the logic of the text is that if you do all these preparatory practices that come before the bliss practices, then and only then the bliss practices can contribute to your awakening and liberation. So only if they're done in a specific way, with a specific attitude, with a specific background of practice, then they are tantric practices. And I'll talk about that more when we get there in a few more verses. But I wanted to give a heads up to, as it were, do your homework before we get to that part of the text. So once again, I'd like to thank all the patrons on Patreon, about 160 of you, that make it possible for this 2-year-long in-depth free course on the Vijñāna-bhairava-tantra to exist, and the other many offerings within the Facebook group and on the YouTube channel, made possible by those patrons on Patreon. And if you'd like to become a patron, go to patreon.com/Harish. And for those who already are, thank you very much. And we'll see you next time. Om.